Hi folks, today we continue our look at developmental psychology, and our focus topic for today is prenatal development. Of course, before any prenatal development, there first must be fertilization. That's going to require sexual intercourse, of course, or something such as artificial insemination. And at the bottom, you see an illustration of the vagina. And if a man has refrained from sexual activity for 2 or 3 days, then about 200 million sperm are going to be deposited into the vagina. There's a narrow opening between it and the uterus or the womb. You can see it about midway up the illustration. Only about 10,000 sperm will make it through this tiny opening. The other sperm will all die. This 10,000 will then attempt to make their way in the direction of one or the other of the two ovaries, which look like big round eggs. About half will go either way. On an ovary, one of the ovaries, every month, usually one very tiny egg will mature. You can see the word ovary, for example, on the left-hand side with a line pointing to a location on the ovary. The fallopian tube is illustrated in brown. One of the eggs will make its way into the fallopian tube and meet a sperm perhaps about halfway down the fallopian tube. If this happens, then fertilization will take place, and the now fertile egg, called a zygote, will make its way down the fallopian tube and into the uterus or the womb. Here we see a photograph of the zygote, the fertilized egg. And this labeled illustration provides some detail about what you saw in the photo a moment ago. The first stage of prenatal development lasts for something like 10 to 14 days, and this period is called the germinal period. Now, only about 1/3 of the time does this fertilized egg actually implant itself in the womb. The other 2/3 of the time it usually does not, in which case mother actually does not give live birth. This is not a stillbirth. Our little creature is only about the size of the head of a pin, and the potential mother will have her next menstrual period, and our zygote will pass out with the menstrual blood, and mom will actually never know that she was pregnant. What would happen if our mother were to take one of the over-the-counter "Am I pregnant?" tests? Her over-the-counter "Am I pregnant?" test would say that she is not pregnant. That's because the over-the-counter tests that you buy at Walmart or CVS detect not pregnancy, they detect implantation. And as you have heard just a moment ago, implantation has not yet taken place. After the germinal period, the first period, the embryonic period follows, and our little human being is called an embryo. This next stage, the second stage, lasts from the 3rd to the 8th week, and during this time period the major internal organs begin to develop. Also the placenta, an attachment to the side of the womb, and the umbilical cord develop. This is a time period also when our potential mother has to be very careful about teratogens. Teratogens are substances that, if the pregnant mother is exposed to these, there is a high likelihood, or at least a reasonable likelihood, that a birth defect may develop. Unfortunately, the most frequently occurring form of birth defect is something called fetal alcohol syndrome, which, as you likely know, is associated with the drinking of alcohol during pregnancy. It's best for a pregnant mother to refrain from all alcohol. This illustration shows the remarkable changes that take place during the embryonic period. Our little critter at 28 days is quite small and hardly recognizably human. At the end of 8 weeks, at the end of the second period, the embryonic period, our future child has become incredibly human looking. Our third stage is called the fetal stage, and our little critter is called, this should not surprise you, the fetus. The fetal period runs from the beginning of the 9th week until birth itself actually takes place. Our little guy or gal goes from 1 ounce in size up to around 6 to 8 pounds typically, and the various organs mature. In this particular photo, you can see what an ultrasound, a picture of some little person, looked like not too long before birth. And this illustration shows the youngster what they would look like inside of the womb from a variety of different angles. The object that looks a bit like a plate, that would be the placenta. This is attached to the uterine wall, and you can also see the umbilical cord that connects the baby to the placenta. In just a few moments, it's going to be time for our baby to be born. Of the 3 illustrated positions, it's by far preferable that the baby present before birth, as shown in the illustration to the left. The other 2 are a bit more complicated and require some additional activity on the part of the obstetrician. If you'd like to see a really great video of prenatal development taking place inside the womb, click above there. I'm hoping you found this lecture on prenatal development interesting and educational. The 3 stages that we looked at were: first, the germinal stage; second, the embryonic stage; and finally, the fetal stage. We also made significant mention of teratogens, or situations or chemicals that, if a pregnant mother is exposed to, can bring about birth defects. Take care and have yourself a great psychology day.